There is no difference between democracy and digital democracy. Content takedown is lawfully prescribed and lawfully ordered by the government in these exceptional circumstances under the law. Regardless of whether you're a big tech headquartered in ABCD land or nation, if you do business in India, you have to be accountable. There is no difference between democracy and digital democracy. The values that we practice, the fundamental rights of our citizens are exactly what we transpose and expect to be implemented and available on the cyberspace. On the issue of internet shutdowns, and I think there is this narrative that's been put out there deliberately because the numbers seem large, but as a percentage of the total number of internet users in India, and the diversity and the enormity of the content ecosystem, the percentage is among the smallest in the world. And any internet shutdown or indeed content takedown is lawfully prescribed and lawfully ordered by the government in these exceptional circumstances under the law. So I just wanted to say that. There was a question about digital divide, and I certainly want to take that up in the Indian context. In the Indian context, the goal that our Prime Minister set out for technology was that it transforms people's lives. And actually, technology is here bridging the divide, is bringing the furthest citizen into the governance, the reach of the governance. So in the Indian context, technology actually is reversing decades of trends of many, many citizens sitting outside governance and governments, and is doing exactly the opposite. Verification, somebody mentioned about democracy. The problem with that is a large part of the users on social media and the internet still like to be anonymous. So we have to decide whether it's anonymity that you want for privacy or you want verifiability to ensure that misinformation cannot be not be detected or not be pursued. So this is an interesting policy dichotomy that most governments face, that we want to give the anonymity right to users because they want their privacy, but at the same time we want to pursue criminality and user harm. I say on the other side, the other trend that is emerging is that the relationship between governments and tech and governments and the internet also are undergoing a tectonic change. For many years, innovation was left unregulated because it was innovation. So you suddenly found after a decade of being left alone, we suddenly have to deal with these so-called problems of big tech. And so therefore there is clearly a correction in the way how governments are responding to these platforms, what the platforms mean in terms of good, but also the user harm and all of those other issues that are associated with the platforms. As far as India is concerned, we have squarely defined 3 boundary conditions around which we believe everybody should operate on the Indian internet, and therefore we hope with the global cooperation those principles will find wider play amongst many nations, which is that the internet should be open. It should certainly not be like the Chinese internet. The internet should be a safe and trusted space. Very important for India because we have 800 million Indians using the internet. And by 25-26, we'll have 1.2 billion Indians. And these are old, young, women, men, digitally very literate, digitally illiterate. So the internet being a safe and trusted space is an article of faith. It is a duty for the government to deliver to our citizens. And the third is this accountability principle, that regardless of whether you're a big tech headquartered in ABCD land or nation, if you do business in India, you have to be accountable. So we have prescribed, for example, even on the areas that you refer to, that are challenging to democracy, and India is the largest democracy in the world, and it's obviously even more critical issue for us. There are certain casted obligations of those platforms that operate in India, and we prescribe them through a formulation called the IT rules, and we've got 9 categories of content and or information that are absolutely no-go areas for platforms. And there is a casted obligation on them that if they want to enjoy the immunity and safe harbor under our laws from prosecution and continue to pretend that they are not publishers, they have to do these 1 to 9 content issues being dealt with. Those deal with CSAM on one end, misinformation on the other end of the spectrum, but there's a whole series of other things. And of course, there's this predictable conversation about whether does it infringe on freedom of speech, does it infringe on privacy, all of that. But our contention is that the fundamental rights of Indian citizens we will protect, but at the same time we have a duty to maintain that the internet is a safe and trusted space for all Indians.